A combination of circumstances may have prompted Rishi Sunak to make the inflammatory suggestion that democracy is under threat. Perhaps Mr. Sunak might remember that he was shoved into position by a Conservative Party clique who cancelled the choice of Prime Minister which the local Conservative parties had made, i.e. Liz Truss, and had inserted into place a glove puppet for Jeremy Hunt. But leaving that aside, let's talk about what Mr. Sunak said about democracy under threat. I'm Graniopteryx. All right, so the first important thing is the fact that a Commons vote on a motion was changed by the Speaker of the House because he was worried about the mobs outside. That is definitely a threat to democracy, but I don't think it's a coincidence that Sunak made his announcement just after George Galloway won the Rochdale by-election and is now an MP in the House of Commons. It's not Galloway that's the problem. It's the postal voting system that's the problem. But I know from personal experience, I have seen it happen, where groups of people, usually of a certain ethnic derivation, and I'm not talking about Pakistanis here, groups of people of a certain ethnic derivation, some of whom were what amounted to illiterate, had their postal votes just taken by the community organisers and filled in on their behalf with a certain vote. That happens in a lot of areas of Britain with large ethnic minorities of different sorts. And because of this, the postal voting system has to be scrapped, except in very rare cases, provable disability, that sort of thing. So that's the first thing, and that is the threat to democracy. And instead of talking about that, you see, I just got the paper this morning, so I'm reading from the paper, and I'll put up the stuff on that appears online. It'll be substantially the same. But Sunak says extremists are trying to undermine British democracy, it says, and he's called for the country to come together and beat this poison. No. What he should be calling for is the abolition of the postal vote. That would be a good start. In a speech on the steps of Downing Street, the Prime Minister said there'd been a shocking increase in extremist activity. And he called the victory of George Galloway as beyond horrifying. So it's true that Galloway's election was the result of an Islamist push. I don't think that's in doubt. He started his tenancy of office by saying this is a win for Gaza, didn't he? He issued a direct plea for pro-Palestine protesters to reject radicals who are hijacking their marches. You can't make a plea for people who think that Nazi rapists have to be pandered to in any way. Well, that's my opinion. I know some of you don't agree with that. And then he said both Islamists and far-right groups are spreading poison. I don't see any far-right groups in this, but they always have to say, when they're talking about anti-Semitism, which is mostly Pakistani Muslim anti-Semitism, when they talk, then they say Islamophobia as well. They always have to insert that in somewhere, as apart from the fact that Islamophobia doesn't exist, it's a made-up word. The idea of Islamophobia being a big thing in this country is possibly, if you can regard that as a people's distrust of Islam in general, that will grow as things like the Galloway election will impel this. But right-wing extremism at the moment is not a thing. Muslim extremism is. When you saw the people who went out on the marches pro-Israel, all quiet, singing songs, a bit kumbaya-ish, waving the Union flag and the Israeli flag, well-mannered, and then you have a look at what happened during the pro-Palestine marches, which were consistently broke the law in many different ways. There's no comparison. What else does he say here? In recent weeks and months, we've seen a shocking increase in extremist disruption and criminality. Yeah, and where's it been coming from? Where is this extremist stuff positioning itself? Well, mostly on the Muslim side, or rather the anti-Israel side, which has become the anti-Jew side, hasn't it? The Prime Minister added, the time has now come for us all to stand together to combat the forces of division and beat this poison. Load of twaddle. What we want from him are laws that do the job, not flapping about pleas for be gentlemen people. No, load of nonsense. Anyway, yeah, I thought I had to mention that because I'm very angry about this. I'm angry about the weakness of my government. I'm angry about the weakness and, illiteracy of the opposition. And I'm angry about the way there is no control. I did mention this before. It's like the ship of state has nobody at the wheel still, and all we've got is Captain Sunak flapping about on the upper decks, waving his hands around and saying, everybody be nice, the waves will drop soon, the storm will pass, let's just get together, instead of somebody just going to the wheel and steering the ship. Okay, right, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.